some wonderful guest speakers to spend 30 minutes with you and share their talents, their experiences, and their gifts so that we all can benefit from that. So it's in a time for learning and then also sharing and exchanging. See all your friends in the chat box and say hello. And I'm going to turn it over now to Kelly, who's going to introduce Alec. We're going to keep this to 30 minutes today for you. So let's take it away, Kelly.
Good morning. Thanks, Cheryl. Nora and I are both really excited about today's guest speaker. So Alex Camelio, who is a CRS from Vermont, as the CEO for Agent Inner Circle, a real estate agent community with over 40,000 members. Alex Camelio focuses on both the growth of the community as well as the products owned and managed by AIC. Prior to selling his company to Lone Wolf Real Estate Technologies, Alex was the co-founder and president at Barcode Realty. Within the real estate community, he has been recognized internationally as an expert in technology, marketing, and entrepreneurship, and has presented for various national organizations. And we are so excited to have Alex Camelio here on the New England Region of Real Estate Council for Mastermind Mondays. Welcome, Alex.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction, Kelly. I really appreciate that. And thank you to everybody on the call today and everyone joining us on Facebook Live and on the replay and on the watch party and on all that sort of stuff that we're going to be doing today. So thank you so much to New England RRC for having me on today. And we wanted to share some information, a little bit of information about data security and about protecting yourselves. I know in recent history with everything going on, a lot of us have had to do a lot more digitally and focus on our digital presence and video chat and virtual showings and all sorts of sort of adaptations or little differences in what we're doing. And there are a number of security concerns that go along with that, but it's not that different than the security concerns we had beforehand. It's just that, well, we're doing it more, right? So we're seeing some more people fall victim because they've started to change some of how that works. So what we're going to cover today is some of the basics. Now, you heard an introduction about me. My name is Alex Camelio. I run the Agent Inner Circle, which is an awesome community. I see a bunch of people on the Zoom call here, and I know a bunch of you are in that, so thank you. But I've helped a bunch of agents over the years with everything from marketing to technology to security. And the background I really bring today with data security is that I've been coding since I was 9. 9 years old, taught myself to code, have sort of been a hobbyist, right? Basically somebody who is happy to sort of test out how you can get into systems and all that, not to break anything, but really to help people and to figure out ways to protect our information and protect what we're doing. So I've spent a lot of time doing that. I also have written the full day data security course for RRC CRS. For the designation course. So there's a full day option for that available if anyone is interested. We'd love to talk to you about that as well. But let's dive in to why we're really here today, which is to learn a little bit about why it is so important to really pay attention to data security. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I keep having to do consistently is remind everybody that this impacts you. I'm going to say that again. This impacts you because here's first off. Okay, does anybody? And we'll see a raise of hands on the. I'll actually share my screen here so you guys can see. We've got that. Let me know when we're all set. We can see that, I believe. All right, good. So, does anyone notice these companies that I'm talking about here? eBay, International Hotels Group, Evernote, Dropbox, Adobe. I'm guessing you guys have used a few of these companies, right? Maybe all of them. I know for me, it's probably all of them. I mean, even the Department of Justice. Well, you know what all these things have in common, all these companies? They've all had a security breach within the last 2 years. Every one of them. Some sort of hacker or security group or whoever has gotten in and penetrated and gotten that data and are using that data in all sorts of ways. And I'm sure you from time to time see these emails that you'll get that says, so-and-so email has been compromised by whatever company. That's because these companies get hacked pretty consistently. They compromise data pretty consistently, and they unleash it into the public. Now that's scary from a, oh my God, someone else is managing my data perspective. But what I really want to drive home today, especially for the folks that haven't seen this before, is that hackers really target small businesses, and particularly real estate professionals. It's amazing that we sort of don't think about this. And it's funny because one of the reasons that they target small businesses, and particularly real estate professionals, is that we tend to think that we sort of fly under the radar, that the only people that these groups are after are the major corporations, and that's who they're targeting. When in reality, the majority of money loss, the majority of hacks, the majority of compromised data on any given day, any given year, has to do with a whole bunch of small businesses. Because small businesses tend to think they run below the radar. The next thing is it's actually more money for hackers when they go after not only small businesses, but real estate specifically. And here's why. First of all, you have access and are privy to a whole bunch of financial information, whether you should be or not, or whether it goes to a mortgage person and I know different states sort of deal with this a little bit differently in terms of what financial records you're taking and keeping for people. A lot of times you end up with that information even when you shouldn't. Beyond that, you deal with large one-time transactions, consistently deal with large one-time transactions. What other industries do you know that do that? Especially other industries that don't have significant amounts of money from large corporations to try to protect themselves and protect themselves from this information, from these hacks, okay, these information breaches. So it's always amazing to me because these small businesses are very, very targeted and stand out from everyone. But it's so much more interesting to me because of this. Every year, the same three things top the charts for why people have data compromised, why people get their accounts hacked, why people lose tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in basic wire transfers. The top three reasons every single year are weak or old passwords, out-of-date devices, and that people don't have antivirus or malware set up. Now, we have an article, I've covered this before, and I am not going to cover this in depth today because I actually have an article on agentinnercircle.com that walks you through creating a solid password, why you should be updating your devices consistently, and that you really should be creating, or we give you some recommendations for the best antivirus. And the one thing I like to remind people of with antivirus, even if we're not covering it in depth, is 2 antivirus programs is not better than 1. In fact, having the 2 antivirus programs think each other are viruses because of the permission levels that they have inside of your computer. So they fight each other. So installing, Avast on top of Malwarebytes on top of Kaspersky, you're actually left as though you have no antivirus or no malware on your system. They cancel each other out. So again, there's some more content over on AIC, but what I do want to cover today are 2 pieces, one of which is I'm going to cover in some detail, and at the end I want to have a little bit of a conversation on copyright, and this is something Kelly and I talked about, I know has been happening recently, and I just want to have a little bit of a conversation with folks about this. So as I said, weaker old passwords, out-of-date devices, and antivirus or malware, every single year those top the charts with why people are losing their accounts. So let me just give you a quick, you should go check this out if your passwords include any information that's relative to you, your name, your family's name, your address, your pet's names, password 123, any sort of 123 inside of any of those things, or if your passwords are duplicated across multiple accounts, meaning you use the same password for multiple accounts, you need to check this out. You need to actually update your password and do it the right way, okay? If your device is not up to date, if we're sitting here and your device in your pocket, your phone, your computer, whatever it might be, is not up to date, you need to check this out, because the vast majority of security updates, or updates in general, are for security updates. And last but not least, as I said, running 2 isn't better than running 1, so check it out. So some more information there for you on some best recommendations and all that sort of stuff. I'm seeing in comments here, it's Darlene says, and answers to Facebook quizzes. You're absolutely right. Most of those Facebook quizzes that you see out there are people who are fishing for information. Your first pet's name, your high school, your first love, your whoever it might be, your first car, all that sort of stuff is identifying information for you. So stay away from those Facebook quizzes. Like I said, we have a bunch more information to cover that. But what I wanted to cover today is something that a lot of people sort of don't pay attention to, or that, it affects all of us. And I have a feeling that we're going to see another spike in it as people start, we'll say, returning to the world. So I know in the coming week and weeks, a number of folks are going to be returning from their home, and they're going to be out back into the world and working from their offices, working from Starbucks, working from your car. There's all sorts of places that you guys are going to be working from in the coming weeks as everybody makes their way back into the world and summer hits us. Well, here's the thing. Public Wi-Fis are not safe, okay? And I want to cover this in depth. Public Wi-Fis in general are not safe. If you have any sort of free Wi-Fi that you could be using, whether it's a hotel Wi-Fi, a Starbucks Wi-Fi, any sort of a Wi-Fi in a large public space where there are a lot of people, maybe a lot of mass buildings on top of one another, things like that, it is very, very likely that who you think you're connecting to is not who you're actually connecting to. And I'll share this with you as thus. So you'll see here that you might think that you're connecting to the free Wi-Fi at a Starbucks, at some location, right, that is trying to do the right thing, trying to give you some free Wi-Fi and trying to help you out. Maybe it's why you go to that coffee shop. But the problem is that I can, for about $100, it's a $99 device called a Wi-Fi Pineapple. You can buy it on Google. You can go to Google, buy it, super easy. What I can do is I can actually create a device that looks exactly like Starbucks free Wi-Fi, except it has a much, much stronger signal. So when you sit down and you think you've just connected to that hotel, that hotspot at a Starbucks, that whatever it might be, in reality, you're most likely, I won't say most likely, but oftentimes actually connecting to another network. Now, they'll let you use internet. It will seem just as though you connected to that Starbucks. But the problem is that as you send information over that channel, as you pass information over that channel, you will, all the data that you're passing, all of a sudden is seen by the other side, is seen by that router. So your router, the person that has control of that, can see your passwords, can see all the bank information that you process, can see literally everything, all the text in any email that you send. They see byte by byte, bit by bit, every piece of data that passes over it. So first of all, we recommend, leaving your Wi-Fi off if you're going out into public, because the same devices that allow me to do this, where I overpower a signal that you're already looking for, also allow me to do something where if you have your phone in your pocket, you know how when you get home, your phone automatically connects and it says, oh, I'm home, cool. And I'm connected to the internet. There's nothing you actually have to do, right? The problem with that is that same device, I can create something that when your phone says, hey, home, are you there? I can go on the other side and say, hey, I'm your home. So let's say you're walking through an airport. All of a sudden, your phone connects to my Wi-Fi signal, passes data, disconnects, and you have no idea that it ever happened. So unless you're actively connecting to something in public, we suggest that you just leave it off. You leave off the Wi-Fi for the time being. Now, if you do need to connect in public, there is something that you can do, which is you can use what's called a VPN. And again, the reason I'm trying to do this, and I just want to make this just very, very clear, is as we all start going back out into public spaces, and as we all start using these communication devices in the next weeks, months, as various states change their regulations, our hunch is that we're going to see another spike in this. And because people have had time to put out devices, people have had time to do a lot of different things. And as a lot of the places in public get overrun, Wi-Fi tends to get overrun. I mean, think about it. How much did our home internet get overrun when we all decided to go home? Right? Everybody, we were all complaining, oh my God, my internet's not working as fast as it used to, because we're all on it at the same time. Same thing's about to happen again in the next few weeks, and I want people to be prepared for this. So what you can do is you use a piece of software called a VPN. Essentially, this encrypts all of your information, all of your data behind the scenes. So when you pass information from place to place, none of it gets seen. Now, if you're in a rural area like me, you can use this when you're not at home. When I lived in New York City, I would use a VPN all the time. Anytime I was doing any online banking, anytime I was doing because it's just as likely in a high rise that this happens as it is in a Starbucks. It's really about how many people are in one place that I could feed data off of at any given time. Okay. Awesome. Now, I want to give you a couple recommendations and tell you how this works. So a VPN is a piece of software. It's really pretty inexpensive. At the absolute max, it is about $11 or $12 a month. And that is for, I believe, unlimited programs with these, but it ranges from about $3 a month to $12 a month. So you guys know I have no connection to any of these companies at all. These are just independently tested, independently rated, the top VPNs in terms of how private they are, how good of a job they do encrypting your info, as well as how fast they are. Sometimes when you're processing encrypted data, things can slow down a little bit. So you don't want to do things like stream movies over a VPN. What you want to do is, if you're doing banking, if you're sending emails, if you're doing anything that might be sensitive information, you want to make sure that you're using a VPN source. Now, the top two really that we see out there are either ExpressVPN or NordVPN. And again, if you're in public, having one of these on is great. They all have sort of various features where when you connect to the internet, they will sort of pop up and say, hey, do you want to turn on this VPN now? It's very, very easy to do. You don't need any programming or tech training or anything like that. You really just install it, sign in, and when you connect to the internet, choose that you want to connect to the VPN that time, okay? Now, before we get into questions, there is one other topic that I wanted to cover, and that is something that I feel like I'm missing a slide. That's all right. We can discuss it. So that's something that Kelly and I talked about, which is copyright and copyright data and copyright information. So there are a whole bunch of security concerns out there and things that can ruin your business when it comes to copyright. And I'll give you a few different examples of this. Now, copyright is essentially the notion of who owns what material, whether it's images, video, any of those sorts of things with a property. Now, it goes even beyond a property, and this is funny enough where we see a lot of people get in even more trouble, which is the number one sort of copyright concern that we see is that people use images that they're not supposed to. They use either copyrighted images or images from other places, or essentially they don't have the full rights to do what they want to do with that image. Now, various states are a little bit different about sort of copyright and how you deal with your contracts, such that taking pictures and using them during actually selling the property is allowed, but all of a sudden, and we see this oftentimes with agents, all of a sudden they the contract ends, they no longer have rights that they're working to promote that property, and they lose the right to use those images. Because most times those contracts, a lot of that stuff is set up where you have the right to use it as, you know, as part of the promotion of said property. The problem comes in when you start taking those images and then giving rights to other companies to use those images when you don't really have those rights. Meaning, if you're using a free service, like let's say Facebook, you upload your info, your whatever it is, your images to Facebook. Facebook says in their terms, hey, we own this now. We can do what we want with it. If we want to use it in our own advertising, awesome, we can do that. We can create our own ads and use that. We can create all of that sort of stuff. Other companies, now this is, I'll just say ZTR and leave it at that. But there are a number of qualifications or things. And really the reason I just said that is that you need to pay attention to any place that you are uploading images, whether it is your website, whether it is ZTR, whether it is Facebook. There are a whole bunch of issues that come in when you don't have full access to the ownership of those images. Now, because here's what happens, right? You upload the image to Facebook. Facebook says, oh my God, that's a gorgeous house. We want to run ads to real estate professionals about how they should be using Facebook ads. And we're going to use this image of the house that we now own. All of a sudden, owner of the house sees pictures of their home as an ad that's run from Facebook. Well, are they going to be happy? Who are they going to go to? First person they're going to go to is the real estate professional and say, hey, why is Facebook using my images in an ad? They shouldn't be doing that. And then it becomes a whole mess. The real trick to this is making sure that you have the rights to the copyrighted material and full rights, full usage, shareable, et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, my suggestion would be to talk to your attorneys or your brokers about how your contracts are set up and what copyright usage rights you actually have to the data, because every company is a little different, regions are a little different, how those contracts are set up are a tiny bit different between areas. So talk to your broker, talk to your attorney about that. But I at least wanted you to know about the concern and just understand this. If you have any question about whether you have the rights to upload an image somewhere, wait and go figure out whether you have the rights to do that first. That would be my rule of thumb on this. All right. So let's get into questions and real question time, because I've covered a few basics today. I covered a couple things in a little bit more detail, and I would love questions. We have obviously a very short amount of time. As I said, we have a full day data security course for the CRS designation for this. So it covers a full plan, and honestly, there is so much more to this topic. It's kind of hard to cover in such a short time period, but what do you guys think? Questions, comments, thoughts?
So Alex, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Anybody that has a question, there's two ways that you can ask it. If you want to ask it yourself, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, you can put it in, that's under the participant box, or you can just type it into the chat box. So I'm going to ask Darlene's question that's already here before I ask mine. She says, people say Zoom is not exactly safe. Can you tell us how? And that's from Darlene Sodano.
Yes. So there's a number, okay, so there's been a number of things. Most cases, Zoom is pretty safe. However, I always have to mention that in recent history now, within the last year, Zoom has had a couple different security issues in terms of breaches, security flaws, where they let out people's data, let out email addresses. I'm guessing the folks that use Zoom probably got emails in the last 3-4 weeks that basically said like, hey, you probably need to change your email and password, right? Because, well, they got hacked. They had a security flaw and they let out a bunch of people's info. So that was a frustrating piece to it. There's also been a bit of, we'll call it scrutiny on sort of the privacy concerns or considerations that go along with some of Zoom's privacy policy stuff. Same sort of thing we were talking about companies sort of putting in their contracts that they have the rights to usage, et cetera, et cetera. Zoom has some sort of gray area and not so gray area stuff that's in their privacy policies that talks about, you know, their access to the meetings and the video replays and the video playbacks and all of that sort of stuff, which obviously has a number of confidentiality concerns with how their privacy policy is written. So those are sort of the two big ones that we say in terms of them not being safe. I will recommend, I use Google Meet, and Google made Google Meet available to everyone for free, 100% free, like last week or the week before. As you don't even have to have a Google for Work account. So like your in-office meetings, things like that, if you don't have to stream it to Facebook and go live or do anything like that, we use Google Meet for everything. And just like always, Google runs the top security platform in the world. So still, there's been no major breaches. I mean, I'm knock on wood here, but there's still been no major breaches of a Google data center or security center that we know of. There still haven't been any major breaches of Drive outside of people having, you know, common password, you know, password 123 or whatever. There's been no major, you know, concerns in terms of that. Same thing with privacy policy, because it's Meet inside of your Google for Work paid platform. You have full ownership rights to all of the content that you create in that paid suite. So Google Meet is a great option. If you're meeting anywhere below 10 people, it's not you plus 9, so 10 people total, I suggest Google Meet. That's what we use. Creating a calendar invite automatically creates a Google Meet if you have G Suite. It's super easy. The quality is really great. And actually an added benefit for Google Meet, it has live translation at the bottom. You can read live what people are saying like it's being dictated. So anybody with challenges hearing or anything like that, I mean, you've got it covered. And it does a remarkably good job. I'm always shocked at, like, we turned it on and kind of went like, oh my God, that's creepy of how good it is for it doing the voice to text. And live, it's wild.
Alex, let me ask you a couple of quick questions, because we are at 12:29 and we always want to be able to wrap up at 12:30. But if everybody's good for hanging out for a few minutes, we really want to be able to get everyone's questions answered here. So Vicki Kennedy from Maine is asking, would Google Meet be a good option to use for a virtual showing? Would you recommend that?
Yes. I think anything with a virtual showing comes down to your client's comfort with it. Meaning, if you're doing a virtual showing that you're going to record and you know, save for later, that's a very different thing than if you're like, hey, let me walk you through a property. If you're walking them one-to-one through a property, anything from you know, Facebook Messenger and the Facebook video to Google Meet to Google I mean, literally any video platform that they're comfortable with, I think is good to go with.
Right.
So if you're recording it, different thing.
Right. Very excited, because next week, virtual open houses is the topic here on Mastermind Monday, and we're bringing Joe Scood in, who's been having some great success with those. We hope everybody comes back for that, and he'll talk more on that. So Cheryl DiGirolamo, our prestigious president here, what do you think about Clean My Mac? Alex?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I missed that. I thought you were talking to Cheryl there for a second. I was like,
no. Cheryl is asking you, what do you think
gotcha. Sorry about that. Clean My Mac is okay. The main ones that we recommend are over in that Agent Inner Circle blog. We usually recommend Avast, Avast, A-V-A-S-T, Malwarebytes, Malwarebytes, and Kaspersky, actually, amazingly, is still independently rated as one of the top ones. but really Avast and Malwarebytes tend to be the top two for independent testing across the board.
Oh, cool. So circling back to Google Meet, is there like a maximum number of participants you can have on one of those, or?
Yes, so 10-person max on a Google Meet. And they do have I don't know how they're going to make this public or what they're doing, because they've changed a couple things literally within the last week, where if you have a Google Suite account, you can do a webinar for all of the people at your company. Say you're running a large 500-person company or whatever, you can do a whole set there. But they seem to be making more and more public very quickly about it. But it's very good for company meetings, like any 10-person, small meetings, stuff like that.
Cool. So Denise Oliveris and Will Molina have a question. They want to know, there's devices that a company like T-Mobile sells for private Wi-Fi. Are those safe to use as a method of avoiding public Wi-Fi?
Short answer is yes. All of the standalone hotspots are great to use. The one recommendation, though, that I would make about a hotspot, depending on which one you have, is make sure your phone is really pretty darn close to the hotspot. Hotspots are still somewhat victim to the same thing we talked about before, which is your phone is going to pick up the strongest signal that it finds. So if your hotspot is across the room and there's a stronger signal, you're going to get that stronger signal. So just be very careful of that. But if you do connect and are connected to it, right next to it, shouldn't be any problem.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
So with that said, everyone, we all want to thank you, Alex, for coming on to Mastermind Monday. I'm going to pass this off to Nora.
Can I add one more thing? Kim Rickard put in a comment that says Google Suite account, you can have a lot more on Meet, and she's totally right. If you have a paid account for Google Meet, it's 100 people. So if you're a paid Google Suite, Google for Work person, 100-person max, and then above 100 is where they go with the webinar cutoff. So just wanted to clarify that.
That's great, Alex. Thank you so much.
Nora, we also have the president of the Residential Real Estate Council, Richard Waystack, that is on the meeting here today that you want to introduce so he can say a few words.
Thank you, Richard. Let me see if I can unmute you there. Oops, whoops, the wrong Richard. Unmute yourself, Richard, or did you go?
Hi, everybody. I'm here. I'm talking with a wonderful gentleman from Chicago, affiliated with RRC, who's doing an interview, but I wanted to make sure I was online to say hello to everybody. And as I do every week, I just want to see how everyone's doing. And is there anything that we can do on behalf of RRC for you? So Alex, great information. And I used you in this interview as I was talking about the great information you're providing about cybersecurity at this time. So a quick hello to everybody, and feel free to reach out if I can do anything for anybody.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you so much. Well, we got him in the middle of an interview. That was fun. Kelly, I wanted to do a shout out to you on Wednesday. Are you doing a CRS webinar?
I am. So it's at 12 o'clock. You can register for it at crs.com, and it is 10 ways to be known in your community. Brought to you by yours truly.
That's great. I can't wait to hear. Cheryl, did you want to wrap up?
Mute. Yep, I just wanted to give everybody the heads up about next week. Can you let them know about Joe Scott a little bit better in case people weren't paying attention? We have virtual open houses. So again, if you have the same number that works every Monday to tune in on Zoom, this is the first time we went live on Facebook. So be interested to see that. We're going to keep all these recordings on the Facebook group. So if you are RRC member or CRS designee, you will be allowed into that private group, and you'll be able to watch every Mastermind Monday series that's posted on there. And if you have any ideas, or you see a member that's a standout and does something wonderful and you would like us to highlight them, we'd be very interested in doing that. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Nora and Kelly, for putting this together, and for the rest of the leadership team and network directors that help spread the word. I see our RVPs on there too, Kim. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you all next week.
Excellent. So next week we have Joe Scutt from Boston, and he is going to teach you the ins and outs of doing virtual open houses. He's been doing quite a few of them very successfully. And then the following week, we are super excited that we have Kim Cameron, who is going to be bringing you, making it lean and mean, and what you should be looking at in your budget right now and where you should be cutting it to project for the next 12 months to be successful in your real estate business. Nora, I'm enjoying these. What about you?
I'm loving it. This is great. And it's so nice to see participation on the Zoom call, and can't wait to post it and get the information out. And we'll be having more fun with the live.
Absolutely. Cheryl, thank you so much. And we will see you all next Monday. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Alex. You're awesome.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you.